Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. See Mid-South Lumber for all of your DIY projects, including windows, doors, siding, lumber, and millwork. Are you building a new home? Bring your contractor in to Mid-South Lumber and meet with a member of their sales team to discuss your framing, siding, windows, and doors. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City. 717 West 11th Street. Signworks, a business serving businesses since 1985. Everything from signs and banners, vehicles and boats, magnetic and real estate signs, contractor signs, and much more. Signworks can do large format, full color printing too. Signworks, a real professional in the business world. Call Signworks at 785-8899. Signworks, 850-785-8899.
Our connections make powerful things happen, uniting individuals and communities. We are Rotary. We are people of action. And together, we turn great ideas into reality by accessing our networks, our experience, and the best of ourselves to make a difference. Around the world, Rotary brings leaders together to build new friendships and to solve problems. Like in Austria, where generations work side by side to build sustainable housing and community centers. In India, volunteers run a mobile blood bank to help provide a steady blood supply for their local community. And in Taiwan, people are working hard to get vulnerable citizens the support and services they need. With over 1 million members, we know what people can do when they come together. Take action with us. Find out more at rotary.org/action.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
WGSX Lynn Aiden, WVLQ Port St. Joe, ESPN Northwest Florida. Get ready.
Let's play the game.
Sports Talk Radio will never be the same.
I just don't think that anybody's going to succeed in that system.
It's a bad organization.
It's just a bad organization.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Onion pickles,
Live and local.
Look, it's impressive.
On ESPN.
Northwest Florida.
What's going on, Panama City? You are now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. And boy, do we got a show for you. For all of those who were tuned in to the Inside Drive today, what a nice surprise that was, having the host back in his seat, Ryan Mulvey. That was a lot of fun doing that show with him this afternoon. And of course, we got to have Keith Fleming on and get everybody set for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, talking some daily fantasy sports. So if you'd like to go back and listen to the Inside Drive and check out from about 11:20 up until 12 o'clock, I think we did 2 segments. You can get all your daily dose there of daily fantasy sports. Today on the show, we're going to have Mark Monteith on the line to talk a little NBA and talk some Indiana Pacers as well. They just had that big deal go through for Pascal Siakam. So I tuned in to the Pacers-Kings game last night, hoping to see how Siakam fit in with the Pacers, but he was not on the floor last night, so maybe the next game I'll tune into and see how he fits in, and then it'll be even more. I'm more intrigued by when Tyrese Halliburton gets back from his hamstring strain and how those two fit together, because they obviously we know about the Pacers. They can score with anyone in the league. but they're not very good on the defensive side of the ball, and hopefully bringing in a guy like Siakam can change that. So we'll get the thoughts later from Mark Monteith at 4:20. At 4:40, Coach Rusty Cook is going to join us, and we'll talk some high school basketball and get the latest update on the Gulf Coast Commodores men's basketball team today at 4:45 o'clock. Derek Tate joins us to break down the divisional playoffs in the NFL, which you can hear right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starts tomorrow at 3 p.m. with the Texans and the Ravens, and then we'll go to the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. On Sunday, coverage starts at 1:30 for a 2 p.m. kickoff between the Buccaneers and the Lions, and wrapping up the evening will be the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. All of that right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Caleb Thomas will join us at 5:20. We'll talk a little Troy basketball or Troy baseball and Troy football. He writes for the Tripolitan over there, and we'll wrap it up with our picks here, the Afternoon Underdogs picking the divisional playoffs in our local high school sports spotlight, that being brought to you by Barbaritos, food community people. Visit Barbaritos on 23rd Street. Tell them the Afternoon Underdogs sent you. High school basketball on the boys' side of things. Last night, South Walton got a 6-point win over Mosley, 62-56. Malone over Poplar Springs by 10, 57-47. Bozeman beats Franklin to keep their streak rolling, 65-42. A close one in Bethlehem as Paxton gets the better of Bethlehem, 37-35. And it was Marianna over Crossroad Academy, 70-35. Bay falls to Walton, 58-42. And Bluntstown takes down Graceville, 59-56. Caveman Rick, you want to get those girl scores?
The high school basketball girls, we got Arnold taking down Port St. Joe, score 41-28. Franklin losing to close one to Bozeman, 42-38. Graceville beating Geneva, 42-37. Paxton going on the road to Bethlehem and taking them down 49-28.
Big win. Looks like a football score.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's see. Laurel Hill on the road as well, taking down Baker 50-41. And Niceville on the road as well. A lot of road wins, taking down Pace 42-33.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a lot of home wins in the NFL playoffs. In boys high school soccer, Arnold shuts out Bay 1-0. Niceville shuts out South Walton 6-0. And Mosley beats Rutherford 4-2. And girls high school soccer, it was a Scambia with a shutout over Walton 3-0, and Fort Walton Beach and Arnold combined for 9 goals. Fort Walton Beach getting the edge there, 6-3. And in our games tonight in boys high school basketball, Weewalt hosting Wakulla Christian School. Weewalt with a record of 1-11. Wakulla 0-10. That game tips tonight at 6 p.m. Chipley hosting Vernon tonight at 6:45. Sneeds hosting Bluntstown at 6:45. Cottondale hosts Malone at 7 p.m. Holmes County hosting Jay at 7 p.m. South Walton hosts Choctaw tonight at 7. Port St. Joe, they're 7-9. They'll be hosting the Bay High Tornadoes tonight, who are 9-10, and that game tips tonight at 7 p.m. And then Fort Walton Beach will be hosting Niceville at 7 p.m. In boys soccer tonight, it's Choctaw on the road taking on North Bay Haven. I know a lot of talk has been dominated around Arnold and the great record they have, undefeated, maybe 15-0-1 at this point. But North Bay Haven is 14-2-1. They're hosting Choctaw tonight at 6 p.m. And Bozeman, they are 1-7-1. They'll be hosting the Tiger Sharks of Port St. Joe, who is 2-12. That game will start tonight at 6 p.m. And then Walton, who comes in with a record of 4-4-2, hosts the Rutherford Rams, who are 4-6-2. That game starts tonight at 7 p.m. Good luck to the Rams and Coach Olds over there in Walton this evening. In girls soccer tonight, Port St. Joe comes in with a record of 5-9. They travel to 0-11 Bozeman, and that game starts at 5 p.m. Rutherford is 4-6-2 on the girls' side of things, and they'll be traveling to Walton, who is 2-6. That game starts tonight at 5 p.m. And then Bay, they're 6-5-1 on the road, taking on Navarre tonight, and Navarre is 11-5-2. That game starts tonight at 6 p.m. We've got a bunch of games going on over the weekend as well. We'll get to those later on tonight at 5:40, in the 5:40 segment, right before we start making our NFL picks. Do want to remind you guys about PCB Hobby. They're having the PCB Tornado Auction, and all of the proceeds to that will will go to the Bay County Sheriff's Office. That's going to start tomorrow at 12 Central Time for the PCB Tornado Charity Auction over there at PCB Hobby. And they just got done revamping the place, so now it's bigger, it's better, and it is an opportunity for you to not only help your fellow citizens here in Bay County, but also check out some really cool stuff, man. That's something I gotta say. All of the love and support that is poured out here for Ryan Mulvey. I love this community, man. I love the way that when things hit the fan, we all come together, and it's beautiful, especially from the, not saying from the outside looking in, but just in a situation where you're not directly tied to it, and you can just see, all like last night at the football game, and Coach Ryan Mulvey was there leading us into battle on the flag football field, and just seeing all of the support that he continued to get. It was a beautiful sight last night. Yeah, and unfortunately, our areas had to deal with a lot of that stuff. So I guess a lot of the people here know how to deal with it, know how to cope, and know how to help out other people. So big ups to our community. There's no doubt about that. We are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. You can like and share our Facebook feed. Subscribe to our Facebook page as well. That way you'll get the notifications whenever it is that we do go live. You can also follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then you can download the app, and where you can get that at is the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. You just got to type in 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Breaking news.
We do have a little bit of breaking news. I was standing outside earlier, and I've been wondering what in the world is going on with this NFL coaching. We haven't made very many hires. Obviously, we've got plenty of time here. But then yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys come out and say, you know what? We're going to keep Mike McCarthy. We love our losing ways. We love winning in the regular season. But when it comes to the postseason, sure, we'll take divisional round exits or wild card round exits all the time. So the Cowboys sticking with Mike McCarthy. And then the Raiders and Antonio Pierce are working to finalize a deal. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like the Raiders are making the right move. Now, we can look down the road 2 years from now and be like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right move. We'll see, though. 2 years ago, they let go of John Gruden during the middle of the season. Rich Bisaccia takes over. All signs were pointing to Rich Bisaccia becoming not just or not being the interim coach any longer, but the head coach, and it did not work out that way. The Raiders tried to recreate the Patriot way by going with Josh McDaniels. Obviously, that didn't work out, which put them in this position now. Antonio Pierce takes over, and the players absolutely loved him in the same way that they loved Rich Bisaccia, and they are going to go with him. I'm not even going to lie. When this piece of news, it probably broke about 45 minutes ago, when this piece of news broke, I was standing outside, and I literally not screamed out loud, but just said out loud, way to go, Raiders. Like, finally someone is doing something that is making a little bit of sense. And Antonio, hopefully that whole situation works out for him. I know that just having the players buy into what it is that you're trying to sell them or build your team into doesn't necessarily always work out, because sometimes you get a little too player friendly. We'll see how this situation works out. I love it for the Raiders at this point in time. And there's not, you could bring in Vrabel. You could talk about Belichick. You know what you got in the tail end of the season, the most important part of the season, in a season where they weren't fighting for nothing. They had nothing tangible to fight for outside of Antonio Pierce remaining as the head coach, and he kept them fighting. I think there is a lot to be said about that. Yeah, I hope it's just not a flash in the pan this season. And, if they are making the right move, it hopefully will continue. That's the biggest concern that I would have. That franchise had so much instability in the past, I don't even know how many years, since, I guess they were, contending for a Super Bowl back in, the start of the millennium. So, good for Antonio Pierce, good for the players on the team, hopefully good for Mark Davis and the fans after all the, like I said, instability they've had. Maybe this can be the start of a foundation of something they can build on for future so that they can have something positive to look forward to. So, you got to be optimistic, at a start anyways. And then we'll go into next season and we'll see what happens. Yeah, we will see about that. 5-4 is what Antonio Pierce and the Raiders did after he took over. So they finished with a winning record at 5-4 for him, and then they also went 3-1 in the AFC West, which with a pretty big win over the Kansas City Chiefs. They also and that was the second time that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead since 2013. And by the way, they also put up a franchise record amount of points at 63 when they beat the LA Chargers in that that debacle of a game. So congratulations to Antonio Pierce. And furthermore, congratulations to the Las Vegas Raiders for making this hire. Julian Sayin is hitting the transfer portal. That makes number 10 now for Bama. Yesterday you had the news of that the young man from Washington who's going to be going in 2024. What is it? Austin Mack, I believe. So he was over there at Washington, reclassed into 2024, and he made his way, transferred over to Bama. Julian Sayin was really waiting on what DeBoer was going to do with that offensive coordinator position because he had already created a good relationship with Tommy Rees, but Tommy Rees is out. Ryan Grubb is in. So with that, Julian Sayin, who's the number one quarterback in the class of 24, according to 24/7 Sports, is back in the transfer portal, or I guess I should say is in the transfer portal after committing to Alabama. So we'll see how that all plays out. I can't blame a guy. Just like with I can't blame any of the Alabama players. When you signed up to play at Alabama, you did not sign up to play for Kalen DeBoer. And I am not knocking Kalen DeBoer. I love what he brings to the table. I think it's going to be a tough stretch, not because of anything other than it's so hard. There's a reason why the Patriots have not succeeded after Tom Brady. Like when you take a big piece of the puzzle out of the puzzle, it no longer looks like the puzzle anymore, right? Or the full picture. And so with that, I totally understand Julian Sayin making this decision here and hope the best for him, man. I mean, this it's your career at this point, and if Tommy Rees was the guy that you wanted to play under, if Nick Saban was the guy that you wanted to play under, and they're no longer there, I do not fault you one bit for this.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so a lot of players are leaving. But there's time now before next season. So there's also time for you guys to get more players back in. Sure, the complexion of the team next season is probably going to look a lot different, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have a wealth of success, potentially. I mean, the SEC, other than Georgia right now, like everybody's pretty much changing, it seems like, on a regular basis for the most part. So, with Kalen DeBoer, you got to think there's probably going to be some guys from Washington that will probably migrate over and kind of follow him over there. That's the reason why maybe they were at Washington. So you got to think that there's going to be some people there that are already going to be acclimated to his system and help other guys kind of assimilate and kind of get into the groove. So it's a lot of doom and gloom from Alabama people, but give it a chance.
I'm going to be one of the people who honestly, if it doesn't work out, or let's just say this, let's say next year Kalen DeBoer goes 9-3. I'm going to be one of the people who's happy with a 9-3 season. I'm also going to be the person who's laughing at the calamity of Alabama fans who are, have for so long just Alabama this, Alabama that. And yeah, it's okay to do that when they are doing that, but when they fall off, you got to call out them falling off as well. And if that happens, so be it. You know what I mean?
And 9-3 is nothing bad.
No, exactly.
There's so many
what I'm
programs
saying
out there that would love to go 9-3.
Yeah, if 9-3 is the floor, let me sign up for that.
Yeah, like Vanderbilt, for instance, in the SEC, they would kill to be 9-3.
They would kill for a 9-3 season one time.
Yeah, exactly. And Alabama fans would be crying their eyes out if they, like a 4-year-old girl with 2 skin knees if they go 9-3.
Well, the thing is it is a tough thing, right? When you're on top of the mountain for so long as a fan, and then you start dropping off, especially when it lasts over a decade. It's hard to imagine anything else. But there's going to be a lot of new issues that come with a coach who's filling in for the shoes of Nick Saban, and it's going. I'm really interested in the process, how it all plays out, and you know what? Even more so, kudos to Kalen DeBoer because to accept this challenge, to accept a challenge of following in these footsteps at a place it's already been shown the blueprint that the chances of you succeeding in the footsteps of a coach, I think there's been one instance where it's worked out where someone has filled in the shoes of a legend there and they took over and did okay, but the success didn't last very long.
Yeah.
So we'll see how all of that plays out. Next year is going to be very interesting for a lot of Alabama fans, but especially for me, because I'm going to accept it all with an open mind. Of course, I want the best. I would love to see no drop off at all, but I think that there's and not only that, yeah, you mentioned the 12-team playoff. Like, all right, yeah, you could get in there, but there's also more teams coming into the SEC. There's more teams going into the Big Ten.
More of a level playing field.
And
now.
more of a level playing field, and less of a roster that just when you look at it. You don't even have to see the players. You look at the roster, see the names, see the stars, and you're like, all right, I think we can bring something to the table this year. I wanted to ask you this question. I think 46 or 47% of the Hall of Fame ballots have been turned in, and Gary Sheffield is sitting here around 74%. I think you need 75% to get into Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. My question to you is, should Gary Sheffield be a Hall of Famer?
It's kind of tough. I mean, if you look at the way the Hall of Fame is now and who gets in, then I think you have to say yes. Because right now, the Hall of Fame is really not the Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of, pretty good and the Hall of just whatever. Numbers, the old numbers anyways, don't seem to really matter. So, I would think that eventually a guy like that probably would get in just based off of, name and recognition. Numbers, like I said, sometimes don't matter because you've seen guys with great numbers. Sometimes they don't get in because of just the way the writers are and the way they feel about making voting, for certain people, like steroid guys included, for instance. So, yeah, I would think he probably gets in, but I think this is what I think about all Hall of Fames and all kind of serious questions. If you have to pause and think about it, then it's a no. It should be almost automatic. If you say this guy's name is synonymous with maybe Hall of Fame and automatically you're thinking yes, then the dude should probably go. But if you have to think about it, then I think that's kind of telling you no.
Okay, I mean, but here's the other thing. When I say Gary Sheffield or I say any player's name, do you, off the top of your head, know their numbers?
Not necessarily.
Okay, or that's what I'm saying though. So honestly, I understand where you're saying.
Yeah, but the player and stuff like that.
I don't know. For me, I do think that gets a little convoluted with baseball writers who have the ability at that point in time to kind of play. They get to play gatekeeper.
When I say think about it, too, I'm not thinking about just you and I.
Yeah, no,
I'm talking about those talking heads, the guys that are actually voting, too, because they get asked these questions. Yeah. They got to sit there, and they're stumped. They're thinking about it, trying to figure out an answer. Like I said, if you have to think about it, the answer is no.
What if they're thinking of it like this? Because I understand where you're coming from. For me, I do want to answer the question real quick before we go. I say yes just off of his batting stance, which I know is something you're like, all right, that is stupid. I don't care, man. That was a batting stance that was emulated by every little leaguer that's ever played the game.
And recognition.
Yeah.
And that's what that helps.
That's what, right. And that's what, because it is the Hall of Fame. And people use this argument all the time, not the Hall of Very Good or not the Hall of Great. Well, it's like if we were talking about numbers, then it should be just right. It's not just stats. It's about something that you brought to the table.
Contributions
to the
game and such. There's people that get in just for their contribution.
And we're not, I'm saving this until next week when we have Sam Peebles on the line with us. But there's one of the knocks against Gary Sheffield, one of the reasons why it's taken him so long to accumulate the amount of votes that he needs to get into the Hall of Fame is because of the asterisk, same way with Barry Bonds, about the PED accusations. And he has been very outspoken about that he was a witness in the case and not a suspect in that. So that's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out. I'm really rooting for my guy, Andrew Jones. What you got before we get out of this break?
I was just going to say, remember, was it Messina that got
Mike
busted?
Messina?
And then he, was contrite right away, asked for forgiveness, boom, clean, nobody cared, after that. He had his, 5 minutes of, shame, and it went away.
Yeah.
He did the right thing.
But why should Gary Sheffield apologize for something that he didn't do? He was being called as a witness. And
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, in those,
Barry.
Yeah, in any of these situations, if you show contrition right away and you show, you don't try to lie, cover it up, it's been proven or shown that, people will forgive and it'll help your case out immensely.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We'll talk sometime next week with Sam Peoples about the Hall of Fame and your Atlanta Braves. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to take a quick time out, and we're going to be right back, hopefully with Mark Monteith.
ESPN Northwest Florida is already your home for the most live and local sports talk. And now we're taking...
Oh, he got all of that one.
The Inside Drive. Ryan Mulvey, middays, 11 to 1 inside the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine Outdoor Studios. The latest reactions to the biggest stories happening right now. Plus, interviews, sports betting, and your calls.
You got to be pleased with that.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Friday. Partly sunny the rest of the day with a moderate breeze coming out of the north at 14 miles per hour and temps near 59. We will have partly cloudy skies and a wind speed of 14 miles per hour tonight and be just below freezing at 31. And sunny tomorrow and a high 46 with a blustery wind. Mostly sunshine Sunday with a temp of 48. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Come on down and get in on all the Senior Bowl excitement Saturday, February 3rd. From tailgating to game day and epic Mardi Gras parades. Enjoy an action-packed Saturday leading up to a free live concert by Counting Crows at Mardi Gras Park, downtown Mobile at 8 p.m. Get your tickets for the 75th Senior Bowl today at seniorbowl.com. The draft starts in Mobile.
Bestway Portable Buildings has been your portable building specialist since 1989. Before you invest your hard-earned money someplace else, owner Jason Mulder invites you to stop by Bestway and get a quote on just about any size building. And whether you buy with Bestway or not, it's worth the trip just to meet Bestway Buddy. Say hello, buddy. Good boy. Bestway Portable Buildings, just north of Harts Marine on 231, and online at bestwayportablebuildings.com. The best in portable, period. Tell them Buddy sent ya.
They're number one in the men's room.
I hope this place comes with toilet paper.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Oh, geez, this is going to be a photo finish.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. You can call or text 850-215-6290. We're going to be talking about the NFL playoffs right here, and we're going to start it. We're going to go in order, so if you have thoughts on any games, call in 850 or text 850-215-6290, and we will shout those out here live on the air. Also, one of the news that's kind of been, or pieces of news that's been dominating the Twitterverse right now, or the Xverse, whatever it is that you want to call it, the space out there, Sports Illustrated. So I've been seeing a lot of like RIP Sports Illustrated and all of that good stuff. I don't think that it's actually going away. There's just mass layoffs that are going down right now. They are going to try to keep it going. This was first reported by Front Office Sports, and that came less than just 24 hours after the Arena Group, which is the publisher, announced that they had the significant reduction in its workforce, which is laying off 100 employees, which affects, I don't mean this selfishly, but one of my favorite, so there's a couple of morning newsletters that I get that kind of recap everything that happened, or the most prominent things that happened in the sports world from the night before. One of those being the Athletic Pulse, and the other one is SIAM with Dan Gartland, and Dan Gartland is one of the guys, or Dan Garland, and we've actually had him on the show before, and he broke that news on Twitter today, and I was just like, oh man, that stinks, because I look forward to that each and every morning. So that will be going away, but I'm gonna try to get him on the line with us so we can at least have him on one more time. But with that being said, do you have a Sports Illustrated cover that stands out to you?
Probably not. I never had it, like, really subscriptions of it for very long. The few times I had it, it's like one of those things where somebody either gives it to you or it's like a free kind of trial thing or something. But, I mean, I know there's a lot of them. They come out like pretty regularly, like every week. It was a big deal for a lot of them. I mean, like, one of the biggest deals was, like, you know, obviously the swimsuit edition for a lot of people. When that was coming out, that was pretty big and huge. But it's kind of sad that all these publications are going, you know, way of the dodo bird. You know, just anything that's, you know, written on paper or printed on paper is just going away in newspapers, magazines like this. I know they'll probably still do, like, digital type things, but, you know, being able to, you know, get that in the mail or, you know, open it up and flip through the pages, you know, also
proceed at the doctor's office.
Yeah, there'd be ads and stuff like that. Like, well, yeah, here's another thing. Yeah, what a doctor's office is going to do here soon.
They're going to have little QR codes everywhere.
Yeah, like,
if you'd like to read this magazine, just...
And they'll probably get charged too, right?
Oh, yeah.
There'd be a fee involved with that too.
And then you'll have to pay for the Wi-Fi usage as well.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. But, yeah, it's sad that stuff like this is going away. Pretty soon, though, it's not going to be that big of a deal, though, because the generations of people that are getting into, you know, sports, it's a thing of the past already, you know, and they probably don't even know about it.
Mm-hmm.
So people like my age, you obviously, because you're into sports, and I think, like, people probably anything younger than you, I mean, talking about Sports Illustrated, they're probably what? You know, have no idea, you know? So, I mean, that's, like I said, it's kind of sad, but I come from the, you know, the day where, I mean, you had to get that, or you had to look at something like that to get more in depth, especially if you wanted to find out about stuff other than the local franchises in your area.
Yeah.
Of course, you can have an abundant a wealth of information there, but if you wanted to find out about, like, a team on the other side of the country, that was kind of how you had to do it.
Is it not wild, though, that's, like, growing up, like, not even that long ago, I wouldn't even say growing up, I would say, you know, I was probably 16, 17, 18 or whatever, unless you was paying $400 for a Sunday ticket, whatever the sport was, if you were not in the market of that team, you had to dive, like, do deep dives to try to find any type of content, and now it's almost like the opposite, where it's like, you've got to do deep dives to find local stuff, and all of the national stuff is just all in your face. Bone Crusher, what about for you, Sports Illustrated?
The football phone.
The football
Yeah, I remember the football phone.
So I was very excited. Kids today do not know the joy of getting a phone with a magazine. So that was part of the subscription deal. If you subscribe to the magazine, you got a football phone.
Yeah.
They take the phone for granted nowadays.
Yeah.
It was a big deal if you had a phone in your room, let alone, like, your own line.
Oh.
Wow. If you had your own line, it was like, man, you're a big dog. Heck yeah, I got my own number.
Call my friend up. Hey, man, I'm calling you from the football.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah, really.
Dude, I think we need to band together. Someone needs to find us a phone, and as the phone is ringing, that's what we need right here.
That'd be pretty cool.
In the studio for ESPN Northwest Florida. SNR Fencing Company does great work, and they just built us a fence over here for the radio station to secure our satellite dish, and not only does it look good, but it's also built as solid as a rock. They specialize in crafting custom fences, but they also do decks, retainer walls, and all exterior construction. Call Steve at SNR Fence Company at 850-832-1392. That's Steve at SNR Fence Company, 850-832-1392. Since we were just talking about Alabama in the previous segment, and this is just my fandom coming out here, but I think my favorite Sports Illustrated cover was the year after Alabama had won the national championship. When Saban took over against Texas, they had Greg McElroy on the cover. I still have this cover somewhere at the house. Bama is back. And that to me was, again, that's why I'm okay with whatever happens. Because with whatever happens to Bama here in the future, I'm okay with it. Why? Because my whole life, all I heard about from my parents and other Alabama fans was how great Alabama used to be. And then when they finally, brought it back, it was like, wow, so this is what it's like to be the fan of a championship football team. Something that I really never thought that I mean, all of my teams when I was growing up were absolutely horrible. The Pacers were good. They would have stretches every now and again, especially. I loved watching Reggie Miller. But outside of that, yeah, Titans had their years, like very, very few and far between there. The Braves were, in the 90s, they were great, you know what I mean? But my recollection of those Braves teams is decent, but nowhere near as what the Braves that when I started really understanding sports a little bit more. Let's start over here with line 2. We've got Jeff who wants to talk a little Sports Illustrated with us, and then we'll shoot over to Mark Monteith and talk a little Pacers. But Jeff, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What do you got for us here? What was your favorite Sports Illustrated cover?
Well, I have a few of them. One of them was Sweetness. Walter Payton had one.
Yeah.
And there was one with Dan Marino when he came on the scene because he was pretty huge when he first came out on the NFL. And then there's a third one. It's a little more obscure. They had college basketball. One year they had Ralph Sampson and Patrick Ewing on the same cover.
Wow.
And they played for Georgetown and Virginia, and that was kind of like a rivalry thing, you know?
Yeah, that is neat, man. I'm sure that there's so many thoughts going through the heads of listeners right now when you talk about Sports Illustrated covers, because it was an absolute staple. I mean, ESPN the magazine started coming on later on, at least in my life, you know, but there was just nothing like the Sports Illustrated cover. Hey, Jeff, we're going to go over to our guest, but thank you so much for the call, my friend.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to go talk with Mark Monteith. He is a freelance journalist, and he's also the author of 3 books, which is Passion Play, Reborn, which is the Pacers' early history, Passion Play is Purdue's season, and Extra Innings, which is about the Indianapolis Indians. You can find a little bit more information about those books at markmonteith.com, which would be a great website for you to subscribe to as we welcome in Mark Monteith. How's it going, Mark?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
We are doing well. The weather is beautiful down here right now. It was very cold for us anyways the last couple of days, but it's starting to warm up just for us to get another cold front coming our way. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that Pascal Siakam trade, and who won the trade? Was it the Raptors or was it the Pacers?
Oh, well, I think both teams got out of it what they wanted, but it's a huge win for the Pacers. I think it's just ideal for them to get another star caliber player without giving up one. You can't go wrong with that. And, yeah, you could talk about the draft picks, but they're going to be draft picks beyond the midpoint of the first round in all 3 cases. And the Pacers have so much depth right now. I can't imagine they could have really incorporated whoever they drafted into their lineup. You know, they drafted Jarace Walker, technically 8th overall last year, but really 7th. They had the 7th pick and traded down one. And he barely plays this year because they have so much depth. He got good minutes last night because so many people were injured. So they don't really need those picks. You know, they have a good roster. They just need another star player to go with Tyrese Halliburton. And they got one, and it seems like he's going to be a good fit. They have some other players who are emerging, particularly Benedict Mathurin. So I think it was just an ideal trade for the Pacers.
I love it. And the offense for the Pacers this year has been the bright spot, overwhelmingly bright. But the defense has been lacking in some areas here. I think that's putting it very politely there. Does this trade does this shore up the defense, the addition of Pascal Siakam?
It does somewhat. You know, he's got great length. They talk about a 7'3" wingspan and everything, and he's he's a good defender. No one's going to say he's locked down, but he's a good defender, and he'll put the energy into it. It gives them a little more size up front than what they had. To me, their biggest problem is rebounding. They're I think they're last in the league in rebounding, or second to last, something like that. And they can play good defense when they have the right lineup on the floor to do it, and when they're motivated to do it. They've shown they could be a solid defensive club, but they really weren't set up to be a good rebounding team, and he will bring more length, some aggression, and I think he will improve the rebounding, which will prevent some second shot opportunities and keep down the scoring somewhat. So he'll address those needs to a degree. He's not a great rebounder, he's not a great defender, but he's an outstanding all-around player, and so he'll help, no question about it.
Hey, Mark, this is Caveman Rick. Thanks for giving us some of your time today. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Good to be with you.
All right, so, going back to the addition of Siakam, once Halliburton comes back from his injury and everybody's healthy and put together, what's the ceiling for this team, do you think?
Well, I think now they've got to raise their expectation. I think the way things were going before the trade, they certainly are viewed as a playoff team. They would be regardless. Now, I think people are starting to talk about top 4, top 4 in the East, home court advantage, first round, that kind of thing. I think that's a possibility. They just finished the first half of their season. If they have the same record the second half of their season, they would finish 48-34. You would think that they'll be better the second half of the season if they have decent health, if their key players don't miss too many games. With the addition of Siakam, they should improve. So if they could win 50, 52 games, something like that, they do have a great chance to finish in the top 4 in the East. I don't think they're a championship team. I don't think we're talking about that type of thing, but I certainly think they could be a team that might get home court advantage first round. They could win a round or maybe 2. I don't know if things really fall right for them. But I just think they go into more of a win now mode. You know, previously, yeah, they're good, they're getting better, but it's really everything's long term. I think adding Siakam shifts them into more of a win now mode. And hey, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they do something else major before the trade deadline.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on the line with freelance journalist Mark Monteith. Mark, is it a blessing in disguise that Halliburton went down during this stretch right here so that the depth gets a little stronger and gains some confidence?
That's a good point. You know, people were frustrated, Pacer fans were frustrated that they weren't finding minutes for their lottery pick, Therese Walker. And their other first-round pick, Ben Shepherd, has shown some promise and played well last night. So, you know, those guys were getting all their minutes in the G League. So, yeah, you know, Halliburton and others being out, Nemhard, Neesmith last night, they're finally getting to see those guys, and they're showing some potential. So I think it is good to get them minutes. Now, will they get Siakam, and he probably will play with him tonight. It's going to be hard to find minutes for those guys when everybody is healthy, but at least they know that they're capable of contributing. You know, that if they need them to play, they probably will do okay. So, yeah, I think, you know, over the course of a long season, it's good for those guys to get minutes. Maybe good for Halliburton to get a little rest here and there, too. You know, rather than playing 82 games, you know, play, you know, 65 or 70 or so. Maybe your legs are a little bit fresher with the playoffs come. So there could be some benefits to that.
So, Mark, would you say that you're concerned about the lack of defense in the NBA at the moment, or are you just happy with the game the way it is and just enjoy watching it?
I think the game's good. You know, people like to say that the NBA guys don't play defense. They've been saying that forever. I think the offense is so good that it's really hard to limit team scoring. Guys are hitting three-pointers from 30 feet out now routinely. You know, step-back threes from 30, 35 feet. Halliburton's one of those guys. Steph Curry, of course. I think the offense has just gotten so good. And the rules have been put into place to somewhat limit defense. You can't do the hand-checking and all that. It's not as physical. But I think that's what people wanted. You know, I remember, you know, back in the late 90s when I was covering the Pacers for the Indianapolis Star, people were complaining about the lack of offense and the physical play. It's too physical. You know, basketball is supposed to be a finesse game. And so they adjusted the rules somewhat to address that. And I think the game's better. You know, I do agree that the three-pointer has kind of overwhelmed the game. The shooters have gotten so good that you have to shoot a lot of three-pointers to have a chance to win. For as long as 3 is more than 2, you're going to put up three-pointers. So you can't deny the strategy of it, but it does get maybe a little old just watching a three-point shooting contest sometimes. The only thing you can do about that, other than eliminating it, which won't happen, is expand the line, make it deeper, but you would have to enlarge the court to do that, and that's practically impossible. So I don't know what you do. It's like the shooters have kind of hacked the game. It becomes so good for three-point range that it only makes sense to put up a lot. You know, you have a game of some team putting up 40, 50 three-pointers. Maybe that's not quite as entertaining as, you know, low post play, inside out type of thing. But I would imagine for younger kids it's pretty exciting. I think the players are better than ever, and I'm old enough to be nostalgic, but the players are better than ever on the whole. And people have always complained about something regarding NBA play, whether it's lack of defense or lack of scoring in certain eras or whatever. The players are really good, and the game's still fun to watch.
Yeah, and it takes me to that Ant Edwards play last night with the self alley-oop off the glass. It's just like, how do you stop it and keep doing that? Because that is a lot of, obviously, you know, it's very entertaining. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I've been one of the people who's kind of like, oh, the defense. And after I was, the last couple of times that I watched, I was like, I just need to shut my mouth on that, because even if I tried to get in there and play defense at the highest level that I think I could, they would still smoke me. Mark, thanks so much for giving us some of your time, and let's try to get you back on here next week so we can talk about the rest of the NBA.
That'd be fine. I'll give you one quick Sports Illustrated favorite cover if you have a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rick Mount, 1966, the first high school team athlete to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I grew up in Indianapolis. I'm in 5th grade in elementary school when that came out, and we knew it was coming out. There had been stuff in the newspapers about it. I remember sprinting down to the library in grade school to look at that Sports Illustrated issue because a high school kid from Lebanon, Indiana, was on the cover. And back then, before ESPN and all that, being on the cover of Sports Illustrated was the biggest deal, was the biggest thing an athlete could do as far as recognition. And here's a high school kid on the cover. Now, to this day, you will hear people say Rick Mount was the first high school athlete on the cover of SI. He actually wasn't. Donna DiVerona, the Olympic swimmer, was the first high school athlete on the cover back in either 62 or 63. So he's the first athlete from a team sport to be on the cover as a high school athlete. But for me, as a 5th grade kid at the time, that was a big deal.
And it only set you back 35 cents. And if you think a frame, a frame print of that would be $138 today.
Well, people still mail that to Rick Mount. He'll sign him and mail back.
Wow, how about that? It's a good-looking cover, too. I'd never, man, that is awesome stuff. As always, Mark, definitely look forward to chatting with you next week.
Okay, take care, y'all.
All right, that is Mark Monteith. He is a freelance journalist. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we return, we're going to be talking with Rusty Cook, who is the assistant coach over there for the Gulf Coast State College men's Commodores basketball team.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Dominic, I think you may be onto something here.
When I was working on my notes for the show, my teacher came up and took everything from me because I was supposed to be doing my math sheet. I told her it's okay, though, because the Tide just hired the board, and I smell a natty in 24. Roll damn Tide, Paul!
Paul Feinbaum, weeknights, 6 to 10 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Friday. Partly sunny the rest of the day with a moderate breeze coming out of the north at 14 miles per hour and temps near 59. We will have partly cloudy skies and a wind speed of 14 miles per hour tonight and be just below freezing at 31. And sunny tomorrow and a high 46 with a blustery wind. Mostly sunshine Sunday with a temp of 48. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Discover Kia at Bill Bird Kia. Let your New Year adventures begin in a new Kia Sorento. Bill Bird Kia has a few new 2023 Kia Sorentos left, and they will not last long. You get the savings and drive away today. Now offering 0.9% APR for up to 48 months on the purchase of a new 2023 Kia Sorento. Bill Bird Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind you can trust.
Offer from Kia Finance America for the purchase of a new 2023 Kia Sorento with $2,122 per month per $1,000 finance for 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. Must see dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 3/4/24.
It's go time all the time. Sports talk around the clock.
Oh, my gosh!
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. This is the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 right here, Panama City 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. Now we're joined by the assistant coach for the men's Commodores over there at Gulf Coast State College. We've got Coach Rusty Cook on the line with us. Coach, how's it going?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Glad to be on with you.
All right. Well, we've been talking a little bit about Sports Illustrated covers. So my first question is going to be, do you have a favorite? Is there a cover, a Sports Illustrated cover that stands out to you, Coach Rusty Cook?
Oh, man. You know, I'm a Michael Jordan fan from way back in the day, and I remember some covers where he was holding all his championship trophies and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does not get much better than that. Give us an update on what's going on over there with the Commodore basketball squad.
So we were in Pensacola for our first conference game last Saturday, which we won. So we're 1-0 in the conference.
Let's go.
That picked up our 8th straight win, 14-4 overall. So we, coming out of the break, we struggled in 2 wins, but of late we've been playing a lot better. So the break, I don't think, did us very well, but I think we're kind of getting back into basketball shape and playing the way we did before the break. So we're on a pretty good little run right now, but we just got to keep improving and be our best at the end of the season.
And a little highlight for the hometown kid, Tank Washington. How's his season going?
Tank is doing well. Everyone would love to hear me say that, he's the star of the team and he's leading in points. But the fact of the matter is, going from high school to college is an adjustment. But what I love about Tank is I think 2 or 3 games he's led us in scoring without us running a play for him. He's our second leading rebounder. I've coached this kid a long time. He's tough and he plays physical, and that's what you have to do when you step up a level and you're playing college ball. Now, a lot of our kids, this is their first year and they don't understand the speed and the physicality of the game, but I think that's where Tank is a little bit ahead. The kind of style that he played in high school has translated pretty good. But I'm telling you, I expect him to make a huge jump next year.
Excited for that. And also, Coach, when's the next home game for the Commodores?
You're going to want to get out to our next couple games. We play tomorrow, 4 o'clock, against Chipola. Chipola's the number 4 team in the country, I believe, right now. And they last weekend beat Northwest Florida, who is also in the top 5. So it's going to be a great game tomorrow. And then next Saturday, we play Northwest. So we're going to go 2 Saturdays in a row against top 5 teams in the country. It's a tall task, but I think it's something that our team's looking forward to. We have one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the country, so we try to prepare ourselves for these conference games that are just tough.
Coach, let me ask you, is there anything going on at halftime that Chipola game tomorrow?
We do, man. We got what we're going to do is we're going to have the Southern Elite Sports Youth League is going to bring some 4th and 5th graders out, and they're going to play a game in the middle of halftime. So I'm excited for that. Let those kids get out there on the court. Let the fans cheer for them a little bit. It's very important to me to get our community and especially our children involved and shine as much light on them as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I got the opportunity to check out some SES, Southern Elite Sports Basketball, last Saturday at First United Methodist Church. And, man, dude, I tell you what, I've really kind of started to fall back in love with watching the game of basketball, and I mean professionally, like the NBA and stuff. But there's just something so entertaining about youth sports. I don't know if it's because maybe I'm a little bit more involved with helping Ryan Mulvey coach and stuff like that, but you cannot beat youth sports.
No, it's exciting, and there's so many wins besides whoever has the most points at the end of those games, and that's what it's about. You get these kids that you have some of them that are very skilled to be so young, and then you have some of them that are way behind skill-wise, but they might get that one basket, 1 of 5 for the whole season and see their excitement, and it just makes them want to come out and play the game even more. I think those guys at SES are doing great because more kids are playing the game, and that's what I love.
I love it too, Coach. Coach, to high school basketball now, who's having the most surprising season here in our area?
If I had to say one team, I would say Bozeman. And that's because I think they had a successful season last year, and I think they lost a few players, but they picked right back up where they left off. And they have a core of seniors that I have seen play together for 4 or 5 years. And let me tell you something, in basketball, chemistry makes a difference. it can overcome some insufficiencies in your game if you got some team chemistry, and that's what they have right now. And they're playing really well. And I think they got a good shot to make a run, in the 1A classification.
Coach Cook, could you give us like 5 players in the area right now that you would say are like the top players in our area, according to you?
Yeah. We've had some shifting around in the Panhandle, and some kids coming and some kids going. But right now, this is in no particular order. But I've been around and watched a lot of high school basketball this year. One of my favorite players to watch, I might be a little partial because I did coach him last year, but he's over at Rutherford now. Nori Allen. I don't know if you know who Nori is. Nori's olive, 5'5", but he is a ball of energy. He never gets tired. He plays hard all the time. You never have to ask him in practice or in a game to play hard because he's going to give it his all. Last year I seen him get 10 steals in one of our games. 10 steals in a game. Like, that's just all hustle. And
Holy cow.
I love those kind of players. So Nori over at Rutherford. I got to say Noah Gray out at Bozeman. I enjoy. I'll be honest, I haven't got out there to watch. I've just watched some clips and some things on Max Preps, and I know his family, so some things they put on Facebook and stuff. I've seen him play in the past and in the summers. I just love his game. Post player, kind of a throwback.
There we go.
Got good footwork. You throw it down there, and he's gonna be really physical with you. And that's my type of basketball. I like to be really physical. So that's 2. Eli McFadder over at Mosley is having a great season. A really good shooter. He's just a junior. So I feel like he can even get better. He's a really good shooter, an improved ball handler. So I feel like maybe over this summer and next year he'll be able to round off his game and become a really good player. Oliver Pratt is at Bay High. I said Nori's, 5'5". I don't know if you've seen Bay play, but I bet you Oliver's all of 5'4", and he's probably the toughest kid out there on the court. But what I love about Oliver is, I'm 5'8" and played point guard, and when you're small, you have to see 1 or 2 plays ahead. You just don't have the height or the athleticism sometimes to make up for that. So he's a player who always sees the plays ahead. High basketball IQ, shoots it really well. So over there at Bay, he's doing a good job. He's just a junior as well. Raiden Bruins over at my 5th one would be Raiden Bruins over at Mosley as well. Again, a physical kind of throwback post player.
Linebacker.
Got good feet. Linebacker. Unfortunately, we probably ain't going to see much more basketball out of him.
Oh man!
I don't know that for a fact, but I know that he's going to be pretty highly recruited in football. So yeah, everybody has to make their own decisions when it comes to that. But yeah, a great kid. He played I've seen him play in the summer, some too. So just a tough. You ask me, Coach Cook's top players. I'm going to give you a lot of tough, hard-nosed guys because that's just the kind of guys that I like.
I like that.
So that's the 5 guys I say. But I'm going to throw you a bonus. I'm going to throw you a young guy out here that I love, and it's Vernon Bates at Bay High School. I watch a couple of their games, and at times he's looked like the best player on the court, and he's a 10th grader. Nobody's really paid him much attention because he's a really quiet kid. So just stick that name in the back of your mind. For the next couple of years, and I'm telling you, you're going to hear that name. He's a great kid, kind of a wing player. He can shoot it. He's, again, super tough kid. He's going to be the first one on the floor. He's never going to complain. Just my kind of players, guys.
Coach, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, because I'm not trying to say basically the question is, what do you think would be the most competitive game of this weekend between Bozeman, North Bay Haven, Fort Walton Beach, Rutherford, Bay Arnold, Escambia, and Mosley? Not showing any favoritism, but just what game would be the most competitive in your opinion?
Wait, who's Rutherford playing again?
Rutherford's they're at the house. They got Fort Walton Beach. North Bay Haven's at the house. They've got Bozeman. Arnold's at the house. They got Bay, and then Escambia travels to Mosley.
I'm gonna be honest with you. As far as saying competitive game, every one of those games you clicked off in my mind, I said, yeah, they're probably the favorite. So I don't know. I feel like Fort Walton Beach is a little up and down. But if you haven't watched Rutherford play, this is the smallest team I've ever seen around this area. Literally, they sometimes are 5'9", 5'10" is the biggest kid on the court. But to watch how hard they play is so much fun. So at times, if they don't shoot it well, they have to grind games out. And again, just the resolve of watching those kids play, sometimes even when they're not playing that well, or shooting it that well, to see them even pull out some games they shouldn't. So I think probably the Rutherford Fort Walton Beach game, I would have to say, just because the way that Rutherford has to play. But they are a fun team to watch. I've talked to Coach Ross, and he'll tell you it's not the most talented team he's ever had. But he enjoys coaching this group because they just play so hard, and that's a coach's dream.
Yeah, absolutely. That game will be tomorrow at Rutherford at 5:30. Coach, thanks so much for giving us some of your time. We're up against the break. We got to go to hour number 2, but good luck tomorrow to you and the Commodores and Coach Gaffney.
Thanks, sir.
All right, that is Coach Rusty Cook. He is the assistant coach over there for the men's basketball squad, the Gulf Coast State College Commodores. Big one tomorrow at 4 against Chipola. Get out there, support them. Halftime's going to be a lot of fun, too. We're going to be right back talking some NFL divisional playoffs with Derek Tate.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Colin Cowherd. You're sending a bad message if you're not going to give Harbaugh, a Michigan man, arguably the best coach in college football. Why am I saying arguably? He's the best coach in college football. Kirby Smart couldn't do anything in the NFL. Nick Saban didn't. And these college guys are college coaches. Jim's the best coach. He can win at the highest levels, pro football, college football. He's the best coach.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Friday. Partly sunny the rest of the day with a moderate breeze coming out of the north at 14 miles per hour and temps near 59. We will have partly cloudy skies and a wind speed of 14 miles per hour tonight and be just below freezing at 31. And sunny tomorrow and a high 46 with a blustery wind. Mostly sunshine Sunday with a temp of 48. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
If you spend any time at all in your yard, you're going to encounter fire ants.
We know they can ruin a party. That's why we're this area's experts at fire ant elimination.
As your certified top choice professional, we will rid your yard of these unwanted invaders. Brock Pest is so sure they will get rid of fire ants that they offer a 1-year guarantee.
Enjoy your yard fire ant free. We guarantee it. Give us a call for your free consultation.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control. Our family protecting yours since 1968.
Your home for Auburn Tiger basketball. WGSX Lynn Haven. WVLQ Port St. Joe.
ESPN Northwest Florida, War Eagle.
As a realtor, it's important who you choose as your title company. May we suggest South Oak Title? Their offices are modern, comfortable, and state-of-the-art. South Oak Title can close transactions in any location in Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. Their free mobile app allows realtors to deliver a net sheet in seconds. They provide mobile closing services to accommodate buyers and sellers. Their offices are beautifully decorated, state-of-the-art, complete, safe, and secure. South Oak Title, creating a better title and closing experience through technology and tailored service. Visit them online at southoaktitle.com.
It's real, and it starts now. Back to the Afternoon Underdogs on the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And you are back in the doghouse riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 right here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. We're going to kick off hour number 2 with a fantasy football analyst for ProFootballNetwork.com, Derek Tate. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, Saturday can't get here
soon enough, my friend. How about the Buccaneers, Caveman Rick? Sorry, my friend, but the Buccaneers moving on, and I'm a little excited about it on Sunday. I'm doing quite well. Looking forward to it.
Congratulations, man. My team didn't deserve to win. Happy for you guys. Like I said, I even picked Tampa Bay when we did our picks just because I was thinking a little reverse psychology might work for me. It did work by picking Dallas, and they lost. And like I told David, while we were watching some games and when Dallas was losing, doesn't really bother me so much about the Eagles losing because, you know what? Our season lasted one day longer than the Dallas Cowboys. They lost on Sunday, and we didn't play till Monday night. So we still have that.
Hey, sometimes you got to take the moral victories heading into the offseason.
That's it, baby.
Last a little bit longer.
So obviously you know some of the big news dealing with Sports Illustrated and all of that good stuff, but we've been asking our guests today to try to give us one of their favorite Sports Illustrated covers. One of mine is Greg McElroy donning the cover after Bama won the national championship against Texas, and it read Bama is back. We had Coach Rusty Cook with MJ, and of course he was on there a plethora of times, but the ones with all the rings. And then we had Mark Monteith with Rick Mount, who was the first team high school player or high school player that was in a team sport on the cover. We had Jeff with Ralph Sampson and Patrick Ewing. What is Derek Tate's favorite or most memorable Sports Illustrated cover?
Well, I would say the GOAT says goodbye.
Ooh.
And it's the one where Tom Brady's wearing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. Now, granted, there's a couple of them. There's one that's also him in that Patriots uniform, but there's another one that is available in a Tampa Bay uniform. So that one, it's kind of special that, I think the greatest player to ever lace him up in the sport of football finished his career here in Tampa Bay, and he finished it on, his final game as a Buccaneer wasn't great, but the fact that he came here, won his 7th Super Bowl championship with our team, it's something that was special. I got to go to cover the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, the one where they won against the Kansas City Chiefs, and being a part of that process is always something that I'm going to remember. So that Sports Illustrated cover kind of sits near and dear to my heart.
All right, let's dive into some of these divisional games here. We'll start it off with the Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens a huge 9.5-point favorite. Total sitting at 43.5. First question, rest or rust for the Baltimore Ravens?
I think it's rest. I understand that some less than ideal conditions when it comes to inclement weather. I'm up here in Fredericksburg, Virginia, not too far out of D.C. and Baltimore. Not pretty up here right now. It's been an ugly week of weather, but the Baltimore Ravens are a physical football team. They play a physical brand of football that they want to try to impose their will up front on both sides of the ball, and I think they're going to be able to do that against a Houston Texans team that has surpassed the expectations of pretty much anybody and everybody outside of cockeyed Houston Texans fan, optimist. C.J. Stroud's fantastic, and I bet against him last week. That was a mistake. As much as C.J. Stroud really impressed me, I don't know if I see him going into Baltimore with a well-rested team and a defense that gets after you on every single snap. I do see the Baltimore Ravens being able to handle their business. At home, I think they're well-rested, and this team all season long has felt like they are dialed in, and no one speaks more to that than probably the future MVP of the league, and Lamar Jackson. This dude's been on a mission all season.
And speaking of that former MVP, Lamar Jackson, do you think he has hit another level this season, Derek?
I believe that you've seen him. The game has started to slow down at all aspects. Sometimes it looks like, even though he is, I think, sometimes the fastest player on the football field still, depending on who they're playing, it never looks like he's playing at full speed. It just looks like he's kind of casually going through the motions. He makes it look effortless at times, and he makes something that's very hard to do look easy. That's not easy in the NFL. His development as a passer is legit. Todd Monken has really opened up the playbook, and he's trusted Lamar Jackson to run this system at its highest possible capabilities as a passer. And then, of course, he still gives you as much as any quarterback in NFL history as far as a dual threat option on the ground. So I do believe he's been able to take this up to another level. Sure, the passing production numbers, they're not that of, when we've seen people throw for 5,000 yards or more than 50 touchdowns in a season. Sure, it isn't there yet, but his mastery of the game and being able to basically dominate every single time he steps on the football field, I do believe we've seen him hit another level this season.
All right. How about Stefanski or D'Amico for Coach of the Year? If it was up to Derek Tate, who is it?
To me, it's D'Amico. I don't know how you can give it to Stefanski after he just got, kind of schooled and ousted in the playoffs. Look, both have had a great season, and the fact that Stefanski was proof capable of being able to figure it out with Deshaun Watson under center or P.J. Walker under center, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Joe Flacco, like he was able to roll with the punches, build out game plans, put his quarterbacks in situations to be able to complement what was, for the most part, a pretty darn good defense this year in Cleveland. It didn't end on a high note. Certainly deserving of it, but you see the turnaround from what the Houston Texans were last year to who they are this year and their identity. They come to play week in, week out, and the defense has taken on the personality of D'Amico Ryans. They come out, they compete, they're physical, and then on the offensive side of the ball, they trust their leader, C.J. Stroud, and for good reason. He's playing at an absolutely awesome offensive rookie of the year type of level. Bobby Flowick also really has done a nice job with the offense, but D'Amico Ryans is my vote.
All right, and then the last one I got for you on this particular game. Do we trust the Texans on the road?
I don't. Not on the road when the destination is Baltimore.
Yeah.
when that GPS, finishes at Baltimore, no, I don't trust them this week. It's more so to do with the opponent than it has anything to do with D'Amico Ryans or C.J. Stroud. I feel like they are fully capable. I just think the Baltimore is the better team.
And then give me who wins and who do you think that the Texans could cover this game, and tell me who wins in the over under. What do you like in the over under?
I do think that the Texans prove capable of covering, even though the floodgates open sometimes, and the Baltimore Ravens have blown multiple great football teams off the football field. But the conditions are a little bit tricky in this one, which that's the one way that I could see Baltimore potentially losing this contest is if Lamar Jackson is a little bit more careless with the football than normal due to the conditions, or the Ravens as a whole. But I'm going to go Ravens 27 and the Texans 20.
I like that. I like the Texans covering.
It's going to be a close one.
Breaking news.
Real quick, we're going to break away real quick. We're going to be right back with Derek Tate, and we'll talk more about this at 5:40. But some breaking news here in our area. Coach Jason Griffin has accepted the head coach position at Arnold High School. He was the coach at Bozeman last year. They had a wonderful season, and now Coach Griffin's going to be taking over for the Arnold Marlins. More on that at 5:40 as we get back to the NFL playoffs here with Derek Tate. We've got Green Bay and San Francisco, 9.5-point favorite. The 49ers are. Same question for you that we led off with the last one. Is it rest or rust for San Francisco?
Yeah, last week I bet against the Green Bay Packers too. So I went over 2 against Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud together. There's questions about Brock Purdy. Even though I thought he played pretty well last postseason, I think he's going to play well in this game against this defense. The Packers played much better. Tip of the hat to Matt LaFleur and the rest of the Packers organization. They came to play and went in there and took Dallas's lunch money in Jerry World and sent that entire fan base into a tailspin. But I don't know. I don't see the same thing happening to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that there's too much talent on both sides of the football for the Niners to lay that type of an egg. They're a more physical football team than the Dallas Cowboys. I do see the 49ers winning this one pretty big. Jordan Love certainly has the arrow pointing in the right direction. And if you're a Packers fan, you got to be so excited that you may have potentially hit on 3 straight quarterbacks. But I do think the Niners take this one.
Derek, who are your X factors in this game?
Deebo Samuel is always the X factor of X factors, right? You got Jair Alexander and some other talented members of that Green Bay secondary, but in particular Alexander, his availability or potential to shadow opposing top receivers. That's a little bit harder to do with Deebo Samuel just because he moves all over the formation. So I could see a slower day for Brandon Ayuk. But the way that you can creatively get the ball into Deebo Samuel's hands to complement what Christian McCaffrey already does, I could see Deebo Samuel on 9 total touches, being able to make 2 to 3 huge plays that could break this game wide open for the 49ers.
All right, and this game, who do you like to win, and what about the over-under of 50.5?
Yeah, I'm going to take the over. I'm going to say the 49ers put it on the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to go 34-20 San Francisco.
I like that. I'm right there with you. I think that, Jordan Love and the Packers have looked phenomenal, but I think if either one of the Baltimore Ravens or the 49ers here benefited from the bye week, I think more so it would be the 49ers. I mean, both teams can benefit from it. I just think that it benefited the 49ers a little bit more. I'm right there with you. I think that it has the highest potential of these games to become a blowout. But now let's talk about your Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. The Lions are a 6.5-point favorite, total sitting at 49.5. I gotta ask the big question, right? What is that weather attire going to look like for the Bucs headed to the game? I'm joking.
Yeah, no, a reporter actually asked Todd Bowles, hey, how do you plan to handle the weather? So that poor reporter is probably someone that didn't cover sports very often. I've been in a newsroom where they just send folks out to cover things that they're ill-equipped to cover, and that was probably a question where a reporter got put into a tough spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way that you just answered that, man, because we do got to give grace, and you're right. That's what I don't know if it was, but it seemed like someone who was just kind of someone who worked with the news station or whatever, and they get put into the capacity of sports, and that's a hard that's a hard transformation, or not transformation, but that's if you're not in that area to try to just feel like you're in that area or ask questions in that area, that's definitely tough.
That's almost like a Super Bowl media day question.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and you got to think the folks that are like your local news reporters and they don't know anything about sports or they don't follow sports outside of their team, and if they're a local Tampa Bay reporter and they're not covering the Buccaneers season around, they probably think that Raymond James Stadium is like every other stadium in the NFL that doesn't have a dome. So they're probably just thinking, oh, well, how are you going to handle this when you go to Detroit? And, Todd Bowles, I thought, handled it really well. He didn't want to sit there and, basically humiliate the reporter. But it was a tough question for the reporter. I felt bad for him.
Moving on. Now, do you trust Baker or Jared Goff more in this game?
I think you have to trust Jared Goff a little bit more, just simply because he's been to the Super Bowl before, right? And I'm not saying he played terribly in the Super Bowl, so it doesn't really say a whole lot that he's been there before, but he has had a postseason run where he's strung together multiple wins, right? He's playing in front of his home crowd, and he was able to slay the dragon that was the team that discarded him, right? They came into his building, the expectations and the hopes of an entire fan base that hasn't had a playoff win in 30 seasons. That room had to be a little bit tight, but Jared Goff was able to handle it, able to overcome it, and for that reason, I think that he's kind of earned the right to be the quarterback that you should trust more heading into this matchup.
Yeah, and What about the Bucks blitz there versus Jared Goff? Buccaneers third highest rate in the NFL, blitzing on 41% of quarterbacks dropping their dropbacks, where Jared Goff, who's got 7 turnovers when he is blitzed, which is tied for the second most in the NFL. Who wins that battle, the Bucks blitz or Jared Goff?
Bowles gonna blitz you. That's one thing that Todd Bowles is always going to do. He's going to try to heat you up. And last week we saw the Philadelphia Eagles, who had some concerns being able to handle opposing blitzing defenses consistently, even though they have a great protection unit up front. It's the same story for the Detroit Lions. They have a very talented offensive line unit. I do trust the offensive coordinator, though, a little bit more than the one that was, helping call the plays there for the Philadelphia Eagles, to be able to find a way to punish an aggressive blitz package from Bowles a bit more consistently. This Buccaneers defense, though, is healthy. And over the last, 2 games, the Buccaneers have given up a total of 9 points. That defense seems to be getting healthy and turning the corner. I just think that there's going to be more answers to the tests that we get from the Lions to be able to beat that blitz and kind of get the Bucs to back off a little bit than what we saw from the Philadelphia Eagles last week. So I think Goff and I think it's Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. I'm drawing a blank here.
I believe that is correct.
So I think I'm going to go with that combination to probably land a few more blows than if Bowles decides to just blitz the house like he did on numerous occasions in the wild card round against the Eagles.
Yeah, Ben Johnson, I believe, is with the. Yeah, no, he's with the Lions. He's with the Lions. Who wins the game?
Right. No, I'm kidding.
Who wins the game, and what do you like in the total of 49.5?
We're indoors.
What?
It's going to be I don't think it's going to be a shortage of points. I do think, though, and while I do expect the Detroit Lions to punish the blitz on enough occasions to be able to get the Buccaneers to back off, this defense has been playing better. And if there is a way to attack the Detroit Lions on their defensive side of the ball through the air, and while Jared Goff may have earned the right to be the quarterback I trust more heading into this contest, doesn't mean that he's necessarily playing at a higher level than Baker Mayfield. Mayfield actually had a great game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who couldn't tackle anybody, but there were also a ton of drop passes. His day could have been actually a lot better against Philadelphia. Baker showed up in a big way, and I don't think that they're going to have a ton of success running the football, but I do think Baker's going to have enough success to generate 27 points. I think it's going to be 27-24. Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick up the upset on the road. And most people are going to think I'm just a cockeyed optimist, but I think that the defense can get Jared Goff turned over. I don't even know if it's going to be against the blitz. I just think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made enough plays on defense recently to suggest that they're going to have some success against a very talented offense. And not to mention that fan base, they're 1 win away from an NFC championship game. The Lions, while they picked up their first playoff win in 30 years, we'll see if some of the demons of those past postseason failures come back to haunt them against a team that still has a lot of talent left over from that Super Bowl they won back in 2020 on the roster.
All right, and our final one here, Chiefs, Bills. How about round 3 for Mahomes and Allen? What do you see from this game? And then tell us who you think is going to win and the total of 45.5 over or under that.
This one is, I've been going back and forth on this one because it's so hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Sure, this offense hasn't looked right for the majority of the 2023 season. Sure, they moved the ball, but they still had some of those red zone woes pop up against the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins were pretty darn depleted on the defensive side of the football, and the offense still stalled out. It was just that the Miami offense couldn't capitalize on the other side of the football because Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel just didn't show up. That's not going to be the case. You know Josh Allen's going to show up. You just hope that he doesn't try to play too much hero ball. You need him to take care of the football. This is a big moment for this Bills organization and this tenure, this group, this regime, Sean McDermott and company. They've done a great job getting to this point. You've done everything you can to make sure that you have this game at home against this quarterback and against this team. The table's set. Now, granted, they've got a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the football, but they're playing really good football on the offensive side. They've had a running game that has been revitalized ever since they decided to part ways with their old offensive coordinator. Josh Allen is still that dude right behind Mahomes as far as being able to put on the game. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. It's so hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes, but we've seen for the majority of this season that group of receivers and their inability to punch in their red zone opportunities, that has been an Achilles heel to this Chiefs team throughout the season. And while, it didn't come back to bite them against the Miami Dolphins, you're going to be on the road, and if you can't cash in on those opportunities and have to keep settling for field goals, that's the route where I could see Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills finally slaying the dragon, so to say, and knocking off Mahomes and making sure he doesn't go to the AFC Championship for the first time since he's become the starter.
Oh, my goodness, man. We will see how that plays out. So you're picking Buffalo here.
I'm picking Buffalo. You need a score. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring, so I'm going to go 28-24 Buffalo.
28-24.
I like it, Derek. I like it.
I do too, and it's always a great time having you on the line with us. And of course, we'll have you on next week to break down the AFC and NFC championship games. That's going to be a lot of fun. Derek, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely, guys. Enjoy the football over the weekend, and go Bucks. See you later.
Catch you next week.
All right. Later, says the Tater. As he always says, that was Derek Tate. He is a fantasy football analyst, and you can find his work on ProFootballNetwork.com. We're going to take a quick timeout, and we're going to be right back with Caleb Thomas. We'll talk a little Troy football and baseball.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
No. That was a good supervisor. Right. Yeah, if I was you, I'd roll that one over there.
They've got the toughest schedule
now
ever. Ever.
They play Mississippi State on the road.
Hey, easy on my ball.
It's like, okay, enough.
Guys are concerned about what's happening now.
That's right.
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Friday's weather. Tonight there will be a brisk wind out of the north, partly cloudy skies and 31. Sunshine tomorrow morning, about the same at 41. In the afternoon and evening, sunny and a brisk wind right around 11 miles per hour with a high of 46. About the same at 48 Sunday, and we'll have mostly sunshine. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Did you know that fees associated with real estate closings are virtually the same from one title company to the next? So what sets South Oak Title apart? Effective communication, customer service, expertise, and technology. If you're buying or selling real estate, refinancing a residential or commercial property, tell your realtor you want to close with South Oak Title. South Oak Title, with locations across the Southeast, including Panama City Beach, Inlet Beach, Destin, and Fort Walton Beach. Visit them online at southoaktitle.com.
It's time to pick your path and go big and go bold from Bill Bird Kia. You can drive away in a brand new 2024 Telluride from Bill Bird Kia. The 2024 Telluride protects what matters, and it's built for the long haul. Its technology will connect with confidence, and its upscale, all-around rugged look will take you on to the next adventure. The road is yours. Bill Bird Kia, the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us today at 2435 East 15th Street or BillBirdKia.com.
He stuck his head in the microwave and chanted Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket! Caveman Rick is part of the Afternoon Underdogs.
Hope you're drunk or heading home to a trailer.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
And you are back in the doghouse riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 right here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. As we mentioned earlier, we did have the breaking news right here in Panama City where we've got Jason Griffin, who was there with Bozeman last year and led them deep into the playoffs. A great run. I was there for 2 of those games. He is going to be taking the Arnold Marlins football job. And we, if anyone out there knows Coach Griffin and wants to try to get him on the line with us at 5:40, that would be great. But until then, we're going to be talking with Caleb Thomas, who is a writer for Troy University News and the Tripolitan. What's going on, Caleb?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I am doing well, man. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time. We'll start off with y'all's former coach. Were you surprised that Coach John Summerall took the job over there at Tulane?
Yeah, I definitely was surprised that he left for Tulane specifically. I mean, with the success we've had the past 2 years, I did expect him to leave at some point, but I kind of assumed that that would be for a Power 5 job, especially with openings at Mississippi State and Duke. But I think with the expanded playoffs, we could see a lot more moves like this where coaches would rather go to a group of 5 team with a better shot at getting into the playoffs compared to somebody like Mississippi State who might not have as much of a chance to get into the playoffs. And although I was surprised and disappointed that Coach Summerall left, it's definitely understandable that he took the Tulane job because of the pay raise he got.
Yeah.
His salary was almost tripled at Tulane.
Yeah, and that's a great point and a great answer there as well, Caleb. Give us your thoughts on Coach Jared Parker now, and what is it, Jared or is it Gerard?
It's Jared.
Yeah, Jared Parker and what he brings to the Troy Trojans.
Yeah, I think he's a good hire for sure. At first, I was definitely a little bit slightly concerned looking into his background. He got demoted from his offensive coordinator job at West Virginia. And especially on social media, on Twitter and stuff, there's always people talking, but a lot of Notre Dame fans were kind of celebrating that he was leaving. But really, when you look at the stats, I don't think you can argue with them too much. At Notre Dame last year, they scored 39.1 points a game under his offense. And as a tight end coach, the Notre Dame tight end Michael Meyer broke a bunch of tight end school records. I really think that his offense has a lot of success in both the run game and the pass game. I mean, their running back this year ran for over 100 yards a game. So I think he's a really capable coach. It'll be interesting to see how Troy transitions from having a coach who is more defensively minded in Summerall to having somebody who's more offensively minded. But I think it could go really well, and he's really shown that he's capable and can succeed in a lot of different ways.
Speaking of that coaching change and having some new coaches there, you got some new transfer people coming from the portal. Who are you excited coming into this season?
Yeah, I really like the transfer of Jordan Perry from Kansas State. He's a linebacker. He didn't get a ton of time at K-State on the field, but we lost our leading tackler from last year, Jaden McDonald, to the portal. He went to Indiana, followed the JMU head coach there, so I really think that he fills a big need. And then also Jamal Williams, a linebacker transfer from Cincinnati, he really fills the need from Javon Solomon and Richard Jubinor, who played the bandit position, which is a hybrid of defensive end and linebacker at Troy. Even though he played outside linebacker at Cincinnati, Josh Boutwell, the reporter for the Troy Messenger here, brought up the point that he could really fill the bandit position well. He put up some good numbers in high school and didn't play a ton at Cincinnati, but he's a big, physical, athletic guy, so I think he could fill the need really well. And then even though this isn't a transfer portal edition, it was really good to see Coach Parker retain the commit of Caleb McCreary, the quarterback from Montgomery Catholic. He was committed to the team under Summerall and decided to stay committed to Troy and signed with us in the early signing period and led Montgomery Catholic to a state championship.
As an Alabama fan, I wish Julian Sayin would have had the same mindset there. No, but excited for Caleb McCreary, excited for Coach Parker. And also, you had the opportunity, by the way, you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're chatting with Caleb Thomas. He's a writer for Troy University News and the Tripolitan. Caleb, you had the opportunity to sit down with Coach Caleb Carbine, the offensive line coach there. What stood out to you about him and what he brings to Trojans football?
Yeah, it was really great to talk with Coach Carbine. He has a really unique experience in that he has Troy roots. So he played at Troy. He played offensive line here. And then he started his coaching career as a volunteer under Neil Brown during his time at Troy. He's made stops at West Virginia and Notre Dame, as well as North Alabama, and they've all seen great offensive success under him. So I think the resume kind of speaks for itself, but what really stuck out to me talking to him is his focus on learning from the coaching staff he's been around. I was asking him about his experience at bigger schools like Notre Dame and West Virginia, and, you know, rather than talking a ton about the environment, the fans and stuff, he really emphasized how great it was to be able to learn under lots of different coaching staffs, including Neil Brown and Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. You know, one of his quotes was, like, the field is the same size, so I thought that was really great, and I think the offensive line is going to continue to have a ton of success under him.
Moving, talking about the playoffs, would you like to see a separate playoff for the G5?
No, I definitely would not. We've seen a ton of Group of 5 teams upset Power 5 teams. I mean, Troy beat LSU in 2017, and, you know, as much as I dislike them, South Alabama, our rivals, wiped the floor with Oklahoma State this past season, 33-7, and they were kind of a middle of the pack team in the Sun Belt. So I think there's a lot of competitiveness when Group of 5 teams play Power 5 teams, and I think there's just a big gap in the respect that maybe part of that comes from resources, TV deals, and stuff like that. But I think the real problem is with the current playoff committee right now. You know, I was pretty unhappy when they selected Liberty to the New Year's Six bowl game. It was a pretty lazy choice by them and kind of overlooked the rest of the Group of 5 teams, even though Liberty had the worst strength of schedule in the country. While they were undefeated, it was pretty clear that they weren't going to be competitive with Oregon, whereas somebody like SMU or Troy probably could have been a lot more competitive in that game.
Yeah.
Great answer. Love it.
Yeah, for real. And you just alluded to SMU. Is there any sign at all of Troy making a jump to a Power 5 conference in the future, kind of like SMU just did head into the ACC? And what was it, 2001, they moved over to division or to the FBS football bowl subdivision there. Has there been any murmurs at all of Troy possibly moving up another step?
I personally haven't heard anything. I think competitively we could hold our ground in a Power 5 conference. However, I don't really see the resources there quite as much for us. I mean, all of these other teams that you see moving up are in huge metropolitan areas. You know, we got Dallas for SMU, Houston, Orlando, and UCF. And the reality is I just don't think that Troy brings in quite as much revenue as some of those schools. And we don't have quite the same viewability. Although we are doing a ton in athletics, we just announced this past off-season for football that we're getting an indoor practice facility being built. And then right now, actually, they're installing the largest video board in the Sun Belt Conference at the baseball stadium. So there have been lots of renovations and things being built. I just don't think we quite have the same resources as some of these other schools that are moving up to Power 5 conferences.
Another great answer there, Caleb. So let me ask you, we asked you about a separate G5 playoff, and you don't like that idea, and I'm right there with you. I think there's a lot of excitement for the G5 versus Power 5 games. There's other, you know, I also came with the arguments, not trying to sound elitist or not, but if I was playing for a G5 school, I would like not just to be one of 12. I would rather be playing for a championship every year and not just, if you go undefeated, you might have a chance to get in. But do you think that the transfer portal has helped or hurt Troy? And not just Troy, but the smaller schools. Do you think that that's helped the parity of the game, or do you think that it's hurt it? Yeah,
I think it goes both ways. I think it would be it would be a little bit reductionist to give like an answer one way or the other for that. Troy has seen a lot of players follow Coach Summerall to Tulane, and we see lots of things with coaching changes, but also just when players produce a lot, they end up moving up to bigger schools. But Troy has also been helped a lot by the portal. We had Chris Lewis last year transfer from Kentucky, and this year at Troy, he was just one of the most dominant physical receivers I've ever watched. He was out there mossing people left and right. Nobody could stop him. So I think it goes both ways.
I like that. And another good one. 19 conference games in the Sun Belt. In the Sun Belt since August 16th for Trojans football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. And on your Twitter, I saw that Troy's won 17 of those. What are your expectations for Troy baseball this season?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the baseball team this year. I mean, last year they made a regional appearance. Ended up losing in the Tuscaloosa regional. It didn't go quite the way we expected, but we did win a big game against Boston College, and we're really competitive in all those games. So even though it didn't end in a great way, I'm really excited for the team going forward. The coaching staff is for real. I mean, Coach Skylar Meade has been a great coach. He's really helped this program turn around at a pretty fast pace, and we've seen Shane Lewis, who is number 4 in the country in home runs last year. He decided to return to Troy for his junior season, so that was huge. And Coach Meade has also brought in a lot of players. Our transfer class this past offseason was ranked number 17th in the nation, and Coach Meade brought in players from Auburn, Clemson, and Florida. And along with just the stadium renovations, I think there's a lot of hype around the baseball program this year, and I do expect them to make a postseason appearance again this year.
Who is your favorite football player of all time from Troy?
I mean, this is pretty obvious answer around Troy, but got to go with DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah. I figured we was going that way, but I'd open it up and let Caleb answer that question. And then we've been asking people what their favorite Sports Illustrated cover of all time was. What is yours, Caleb?
Man, I mean, I grew up a Florida Gators fan, so even though I was a bit younger at the time, some of the 2006, 2008 national championship covers were pretty good. Got Tim Tebow there, so yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of that? What was the name of the documentary again? Swamp Kings.
I personally didn't watch it. I heard stuff about it. Gotcha. I think just the journalistic integrity of just not really covering a lot of the stuff that went around with that team, and from what I heard, it seemed just like an Urban Meyer puff piece, so I wasn't really too interested in watching that.
My man, Caleb, you will definitely be back on with the afternoon. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I'll be reaching out to you shortly, my friend. That was great stuff. We'll chat with you soon, all right?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, that is Caleb Thomas. He's a writer over there for Troy University News at the Tripolitan. Great stuff there, man. A lot of fun chatting with him, and we'll make him our official contact for Troy football, basketball, and baseball.
I like his style.
Moving forward. Yeah, I know you do. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to take a quick timeout. We'll be right back talking a little local sports and making our picks for the NFL divisional round.
PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.
Plus, we'll be taking your calls and questions at 850-215-6290. The PCB Hobby Takeover.
A platform for you to do your hobby.
Mondays at 5:20 on the Sports Talk Must. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Friday's weather. Tonight there will be a brisk wind out of the north, partly cloudy skies and 31. Sunshine tomorrow morning, about the same at 41. In the afternoon and evening, sunny and a brisk wind right around 11 miles per hour with a high of 46. About the same at 48 Sunday, and we'll have mostly sunshine. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Kitchen Designs in Panama City Beach and Santa Rosa Beach want to help you make your dream kitchen a reality in 2024. Family owned and operated for over 20 years, they offer cabinets, countertops, flooring, and tile. Their cash and carry program offers Shaker White cabinets available the very next day. Call Kitchen Designs to make your dream come true. 850-775-4150.
The Senior Bowl. For 75 years, it's been the proving ground of football's greatest legends. The tradition continues Saturday, February 3rd as the legends return to Mobile. Join us at Hancock Whitney Stadium, where the first 5,000 entrants will receive limited edition bobbleheads of the 75th team legends. Dan Marino, DeMarcus Ware, Aaron Donald, Sean Alexander, and Cornelius Bennett. Get your tickets for the 75th Senior Bowl at seniorbowl.com. The draft starts in Mobile.
It moves fast. The High School Spotlight. Weekdays at 5:40.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by Barbaritos. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. This is the final segment of the week here for the Afternoon Underdogs. And you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I am David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. As we mentioned earlier, the breaking news, Jason Griffin has accepted the Arnold High School football coaching position. Bozeman last year, they made it to the Final Four. They had some great games along the way. Someone sent me over the press release type deal from Principal Ivan Beach. He said, I'm reaching out to you this afternoon to inform you that our head football coach, Jason Griffin, has accepted the head coach position at Arnold High School. He says, while this is disappointing news, we wish Coach Griff the best in his new position and thank him for his 6 years of coaching at Bozeman. The head football coach position for Bozeman will be advertised starting Monday, and their goal is to fill the position by the 31st. So there you have it. Jason Griffin heading over to Arnold at that point in time, hopefully to revitalize that program. I know a lot of the Arnold faithful would absolutely love that, and we'll see which direction Bozeman goes after an unprecedented season from them, the greatest season in Bozeman history at that point in time. So interesting stuff. Not expecting that. Wasn't expecting that to break, but it did.
'Tis the season for coaching hires and like movement and stuff this time of year, so yeah, kind of makes sense.
And the Department of Finance, I know this is not sports here, but we did have a tornado that came through last week. The Department of Financial Services was out helping out Bay County residents with insurance questions. They were doing this over at Highland Park Baptist Church. If you missed that opportunity, DFS team members recommend going to preparefl.com, or you can call the toll-free helpline at 1-877-693-5236. You can go to FL.com, or you can call the toll-free helpline at 1-877-693-5236. Also, the PCB Tornado Charity Relief Auction is over there at PCB Hobby tomorrow, starting at 12 Central. So go put on, go show up, go check out the new establishment, everything that they've got going. But more importantly, everything that they raise is going to the Bay County Sheriff's Office. And once it goes there, then it's going to be utilized to help our community here. I mean, Todd and Dr. Sharon that were, directly affected with one of their houses getting demolished by the tornado. And so they're doing this for the community here. So let's go help out PCB Hobby, help the rest of our community. Starting tomorrow at PCB Hobby, 12 Central Time. Tomorrow in boys basketball, Bozeman is 16-2. They're traveling to North Bay Haven, who is 2-16. They will tip off at 2:15. Fort Walton Beach, as we mentioned earlier with Coach Rusty Cook, they're 5-13. Rutherford is 11-7, and they will tip at 5:30. Escambia is 6-12. They're traveling to Mosley, who is 12-6, and that game tips at 7 p.m. And then Bay is 9-10. They travel to Arnold for a 7 p.m. tip. In girls basketball, also on Saturday, Saturday. Arnold is 8-11, and they travel to Monroe, who is 4-14. They will tip off at 2 p.m. Rutherford 16-1 behind the future Mississippi State Bulldog Shakira Edwards. They're 16-1. They're taking on Ribault, who is 11-4, and that will tip at 4 p.m. Bozeman 7-9. They travel to North Bay Haven, who is 3-16, and they will tip at 5:30. And Saturday, we've got some boys soccer. Arnold 15-0-1, traveling to Gulf Breeze, who is 12-3-1. They will start at 1 p.m. That could be a heck of a game. And then South Walton 5-10-2, traveling to Bay, who is 9-4-2, and they will start at 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. In girls soccer, Saturday, Bay 6-5-1. North Bay Haven is 14-4, and that game will tip at 11 a.m. Let's dive into our NFL picks for this week, and I don't even think that I got the pick'em sheet.
I'm just going to use this sheet and just write them.
Yeah, you can just do that because I've got the pick'em sheets. They're out there, but I'll just take the sheets and put them onto the pick'em sheets at that point in time. Let's start it off with the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens come in as a 9.5-point favorite. Total was sitting at 43.5. I'll let you start off with this one, Caveman Rick.
Yeah, Baltimore's at the house. We've seen what, John Harbaugh's capable of doing. He's always got his team ready and prepared. C.J. Stroud's been looking really good. The Houston Texans pulled off a big win last week, but I think going on the road to Baltimore is going to be too much of a test for him. Lamar Jackson's is going to be rested up, having a week off. Give me Baltimore all day. I think they'll cover the points as well.
All right. What about you, Bone Crusher?
Baltimore Ravens.
All right. Yeah. So for me, I've been riding the Baltimore Ravens. Keith Fleming, when he's on the Inside Drive for about the last 6 weeks or so, was asking our top 5 teams each week. Not top 5 teams in just terms of who's the best teams, but the top 5 teams who are the most likely to win the Super Bowl. And man, there was just something about the Ravens. Mark Andrews goes down. Lamar Jackson, I don't care if you say, oh, well, the statistics don't match up to other. Okay, but he's having a great year. The Ravens are having a great year. And they're a lot of fun to watch. What's another thing that we know about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, or the Ravens with Lamar Jackson? 0-2 in the divisional round. 1 touchdown pass in those 2 games, 3 interceptions. On the flip side of that token, the Houston Texans, 0-4 in the divisional round, and they lose, on average, by about 14.5 points. That's one of the kickers for me. It's got to be Baltimore in this game, man. With the weather, with the Texans just being 4-4 on the road, hey, it's been a magical season. It's been a great ride. I just think that the Baltimore Ravens, if it's rest and not rust for them. Now, if it's rust, I like C.J. Stroud. But right now, I think that it's more of a rest situation for the Ravens. Let me get Baltimore at the house. Moving on to the AFC Championship game, playing either the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to go to the NFC divisional game on Saturday night, and that game starts right here at 7:15 on ESPN Northwest Florida, following the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. 49ers, 9.5-point favorite again. Total sitting at 50.5. Caveman Rick, give me your thoughts on this game.
Oh, this one's going to be tough. I mean, San Francisco's been on a run this year, and it's just kind of hard to think that they're going to keep it rolling. Sort of like your Braves, having a great season all season long. They were like the front runners, and then you get to the playoffs, and then you just sputter out. So I'm wondering if the same thing might happen to San Francisco. We've seen the way Jordan Love played last week. Brock Purdy's got the same time in the league, really starting wise, as pretty much Jordan Love. So you got 2 quarterbacks that are relatively the same. More and better weapons in San Francisco, though, for Brock Purdy. I'm going to take San Francisco. No, I'm not. I'm going to do the upset. I'm going to take Green Bay.
Now,
I'm going to go out there. I'm going to take Green Bay. I'm probably going to be wrong, but you know what? I'll take Green Bay. If they get off to a start, an early start, maybe they get the ball first again and score a touchdown. It can get up and then maybe make a big stop on San Francisco and kind of, get out in front. That might be big for them.
What you got, Bone Crusher?
No way, Rick. Green Bay's not going to win. The 49ers got this.
We'll see, buddy.
I think Rick's been in that True Leaf store over on Middle Beach, get that banana kush or something.
Interesting to note, though. The Packers,
that's why I picked Green Bay.
There you go. The Packers have won 4 straight games outright as underdogs, and that is their longest underdog streak since 2011-2012 season. Man, I've been riding with the Ravens, and like I said, I think it was Wednesday evening or Thursday evening, I'm going to switch that over to the 49ers. I would love to see a Ravens-Niners Super Bowl. There's actually a ton of matchups I would like to see out of the remaining teams in the divisional round. One thing to note, though, referee, which is going to be Alex Kemp, their crew in the regular season led the NFL with an average of 15.3 flags per game. The Packers and the 49ers are both some of the highest penalized teams in the NFL, the top 3. So 49ers had 125 penalties on the year, Packers with 124. So expect Twitter to be going wild tomorrow about the officiating in that game. However, I think that it leads to a big win for the San Francisco 49ers. I like that 34-20 score from Derek Tate. I'm not saying that that's going to be my score, but it's somewhere like a 2-touchdown win there. San Francisco covers the 9.5. I don't think so. I don't think that that's the case with the Houston Texans. I think the Houston Texans cover 9.5, but Baltimore gets the win. We're going to move to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions are a 6.5-point favorite. The total is sitting at 49.5. Caveman Rick, tell me what you like from this game.
This game, what you got to like is, Detroit moving on for the first time in quite some time into the playoffs. Kind of gives me pause, though, to pick them. I really do want to pick them, and I think I still am, but, man, that team just hasn't showed you nothing in the playoffs so many times for so many years that, you're going to see the same thing as we always do, and you kind of have to think that might be the case. But because of the good feeling that they got going on right now, I'm going to take Detroit. I think it's going to be a little bit much for Baker Mayfield being on the road. He had his big win last week when he was facing some kind of adversity. I think now this one, rubber hits the road, and it's just not going to come to fruition for Tampa Bay. So give me Detroit.
Put down the banana kush. Tampa Bay Buccaneers got this. The only way that Tampa loses this is if they whip out those 1987 jerseys. Those
creamsicles.
Yeah, I'm looking at the SI cover from August 1987. Vinny Testaverde and those Tampa Bay unis on the cover, and he led them to an amazing 4-11 that season.
I still don't think those uniforms are that amazing. I still think they're one of the worst incarnations of a uniform ever.
They're so bad, they're good.
All right, maybe I was about to say I kind of like I would not like to see it on a normal basis, but what other colors are you seeing like that in the NFL?
Well, I know, and
the helmets. Come on, those logos on the helmets are
it looks like the Three Musketeers candy bar.
There we go. That's fine, man. Yours look like the wings of an eagle.
Yeah.
All right, there.
The symbol of our country.
Fair enough. I cannot debate with you any further on that one. Bone Crusher, you got the Lions, right?
No, I got Tampa. He got.
I'm over here.
Mr. Banana Kush got the Lions.
All right, so with that being said, Mr. Banana Kush, do we have a new nickname there for
Right, John knows all the names.
Bet and nugget for this one. Both teams are 12-6 against the spread, which is tied for the second best in the league, behind the Raiders, who are 12-5 against the spread. But the unders are 12-6 in Bucs games, while overs are 11-7 in the Detroit Lions game. So this is like a tale of two opposites to some extent. I think Detroit, Jared Goff will prove to be too much, but not necessarily it being Jared Goff. I think that it comes down to Jahmyr Gibbs, the duo here of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I think that their running game will outlast the Buccaneers, who don't really have a great running game, and so therefore it kind of falls on the defense's shoulders, and then obviously on Baker Mayfield. But if that blitz that Derek Tate was talking about of the Buccaneers can find its way to create turnovers against Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, the Buccaneers can find success there. I'm still going to ride with the Detroit Lions in this game. I like it to be close. I like a 3-point game in this one, so Tampa Bay covers, but I like the under in this. I like a low-scoring game, but I think that the Detroit Lions walk away with the win in this one. And then we'll go to our final game, the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills. Bills are a 2.5-point favorite in this one. Caveman Rick, lead us off.
Oh, man, number 3 for these two teams. You got Patrick Mahomes going on the road for the first time ever in his career. This is going to be something to see and see how he handles it on the road. The way that these two teams have been playing coming into the playoffs, it's really hard to pick Kansas City right now. They kind of stumbled in, kind of like my Eagles did, backing their way into the playoffs. Buffalo Bills are coming in very hot right now. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills in this one. I think they win it. Probably something like an overtime type game, in very close situation. I wouldn't be surprised too if you're going to hear about some kind of referee type stuff or shenanigans or something like that because of it being a big important game and be very close. But yeah, give me the Buffalo Bills in a super, super close game. Like I said, probably in overtime.
Yeah. I went with Buffalo last week. I'm going to stay with the Bills.
All right. Well, this is going to be a fun playoff game. Like you said, the third time. And if they're playing in the regular season, I'd be all for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And I would love to see. This is one of those games where I'm going to be rooting for the Buffalo Bills. But you put Patrick Mahomes in NFL playoff football. What did Derek Tate just say a few segments ago? The guy, since he's been the starter for the Kansas City Chiefs, has been in every single AFC championship game. There's something to be said about that. Yeah, they backed into the playoffs. Playing at home, they backed into the playoffs. But this right here, you win a game like this, Patrick Mahomes, and now, I mean, what can we say next year when he gets thrown into a different position or the wide receiver drops, all of that? Rashee Rice had 130 yards last week. I think that is huge for Patrick Mahomes to find some confidence. The weather is probably going to be a little wacky up there at Orchard Park as well. And then here's the thing. It's the turnover battle, right? Because the Bills, 30 turnovers they forced this year, which is good for the second most in the NFL behind the Ravens and the Giants, who forced 31 each. I would have never guessed that about the Giants.
No doubt.
But the Chiefs only forced 17 turnovers, which is the 27th most in the NFL at that point in time. For me, I think that we're going to end up seeing Josh Allen turn the ball over like what we've come to expect in times when he should not, and I think that ends up hurting the Bills' chances. I would not be surprised at all for this game to go to overtime. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. Patrick Mahomes moving on to take on Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship, which either way you go here, Josh Allen, or if it's Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, or if it's C.J. Stroud, AFC Championship game is going to be a good one. No doubt about it. Y'all enjoy these games. They start tomorrow at 3 p.m. and then on Sunday, 1:30 p.m. We are out, and we will see you Monday. Just remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
Your home for the NFL. ESPN Northwest Florida.
The NFL playoffs continue this weekend. Saturday, it's the Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens. Kickoff at 3:30. Followed by the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers at 7:15. Then, Sunday, your